Imagine for a moment that you are standing on a planet similar to Earth. You look down and you see the ground, the rocks, your own hands. Everything seems normal. But then you look up. On Earth, when we look up at the night sky, we are greeted by a tapestry of light. We see thousands of stars, the glowing band of the Milky Way, the moon, the planets. We feel connected to a vast, crowded cosmos. But on this planet, when you look up, you see nothing. Absolute, total darkness. There are no stars. There are no galaxies. There is no moon to reflect the light of a sun. There is just an endless, suffocating abyss of black ink stretching out in all directions. If you lived on this world, you would not know that the universe exists. You would think your solar system was the only thing in all of creation, floating alone in an infinite void. You wouldn't know about gravity, or galaxies, or the Big Bang, because there would be no evidence for any of it. This sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like a hypothetical scenario designed to scare you, but it is not. This place is real. It is located 700 light-years away from Earth, in the direction of the constellation Boötes. It is a region of space so vast and so empty that it defies our understanding of how the universe was built. It is called the Boötes Void, also known as the Great Nothing. For decades, astronomers have stared into this abyss, trying to understand why it exists. Why is there a hole in the universe? Why is a region of space, large enough to hold billions of stars, completely dead? Standard science has a few theories, but there is one theory, a darker, more terrifying possibility, that suggests this void isn't natural at all. It suggests that the Boötes Void isn't just empty, it has been deleted. Today we are going to look into the darkness, and we have to ask ourselves, is the universe simply broken in this spot? Or is something deleting the stars and heading our way? To understand why the Boötes Void is so terrifying, we first have to understand what the universe should look like. When we zoom out from Earth, past the solar system, past the Milky Way, the universe usually looks like a sponge. It looks like a web. We call it the cosmic web. Galaxies are not scattered randomly. They cluster together in long filaments and walls, drawn together by gravity. Between these walls of light, there are gaps. These gaps are called voids. It is normal to have empty spaces in a sponge. But in 1981, an astronomer named Robert Kirshner found something that broke the pattern. He was mapping a survey of galactic redshifts, trying to build a 3D model of our corner of the universe. He expected to find the usual pattern: cluster, small gap, cluster, small gap. Instead, he hit a wall of silence. His data showed a massive spherical region of space where there was simply nothing. At first, they thought it was a mistake. Maybe the equipment was faulty. Maybe something was blocking the view. But as they rechecked the data, the horror of the scale began to sink in. This wasn't just a gap, it was a monster. The Boötes Void is a sphere with a diameter of nearly 330 million light-years. Let me try to put that number into perspective, because the human brain is not designed to comprehend a number that big. The Milky Way galaxy, our home, is about 100,000 light-years across. It is a city of 400 billion stars. You could fit the entire Milky Way inside the Boötes Void 3,000 times, and they would still have room to float around without touching each other. It creates a volume of space that accounts for nearly 0.27% of the entire observable universe. That sounds small, but in cosmic terms, it is colossal. It is the single largest anomaly we have ever found. If the universe is a bustling city like New York, the Boötes Void isn't just an empty room. It's an empty Central Park, smack in the middle of Manhattan, where no one is allowed to walk. Astronomer Greg Aldering once gave the most chilling description of this place. He said, "If the Milky Way had been in the center of the Boötes Void, we wouldn't have known there were other galaxies until the 1960s. Think about that. If we lived there, we would have looked up with our telescopes in the 1600s, the 1700s, the 1800s, and seen nothing but black. We would have assumed the universe ended at the edge of our own solar system. We would have been alone, in the dark. So, we have a massive hole. Why is that scary? Space is mostly empty anyway, right? The problem isn't that it's empty. The problem is that it is too empty. According to our best understanding of cosmology and the Big Bang Theory, matter should be distributed somewhat evenly. Yes, gravity pulls things together, but on a scale of 330 million light years, there should be stuff. Based on the average density of the universe, a region of this size should contain approximately 2,000 galaxies. 2,000. Each of those galaxies should be filled with billions of stars. It should be a buzzing highway of light and energy. So how many did we find? After decades of searching, using our most powerful telescopes, scanning every frequency of light, astronomers have found a grand total of 60. Not 2,000, 60. And the weirdest part, these 60 galaxies aren't clumped together in the middle. They are scattered in a strange tube shape running through the center of the void. Imagine walking into a crowded stadium. There are 50,000 people screaming and cheering, but then you look at one specific section of the stands, a huge circular section, and in that section, there are only 3 people sitting miles apart in absolute silence. You would immediately know something is wrong. You would assume that section was roped off, or that something happened there to drive everyone away. That is the Boötes Void. It is a statistical impossibility. It challenges our theories of how gravity works. Some scientists have tried to explain it by suggesting that maybe smaller voids merge together over billions of years, like soap bubbles popping and joining into one big bubble. This is the natural theory. It suggests that the Boötes Void is just a supervoid, created by the random chance of gravity pulling galaxies away from the center toward the edges. And for a long time, this was the accepted answer. It's boring, it's safe, and it lets astronomers sleep at night. But there are details that don't fit. The edges of the void are too sharp, the interior is too clean, and the few galaxies that are inside are behaving strangely. This brings us to the second category of theories, the theories that suggest the emptiness is not an accident. The theories that suggest the void is not a natural formation, but a product of engineering. To understand the darker theory, we need to talk about civilizations. In 1964, Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev proposed a scale to measure a civilization's technological advancement based on how much energy it can use. A Type 1 civilization can use all the energy available on its home planet. We, humans, are not even Type 1 yet. We are about a 0.7. We are still burning dead plants for fuel. A Type 2 civilization can harness all the energy of its star. This is where concepts like the Dyson sphere come in. A Dyson sphere is a massive shell built around a star to capture 100% of its solar output. If you build a shell around a star, you effectively hide it. From the outside, the star disappears. It goes dark. And then there is Type 3. A Type 3 civilization is a godlike species. They can harness the energy of an entire galaxy. They would colonize every star system, build Dyson spheres around every sun, and link them into a network of unimaginable power. Now let's go back to the Boötes Void. What would a Type 3 civilization look like to an outside observer like us? If a civilization began to expand, taking over star after star, encasing them in Dyson spheres to feed their hunger for energy, what would we see? We would see the stars vanishing. We would see a region of space where the light slowly goes out, a sphere of darkness that grows and grows, expanding outward as the civilization conquers more systems. First, a few stars blink out, then entire clusters, then whole galaxies fade into the infrared spectrum and finally disappear from visible sight completely as they are boxed in. The Boötes Void is almost perfectly spherical. It is abnormally empty. Is it possible that we are not looking at a natural hole in the universe? Is it possible that we are looking at a sprawling galactic empire? This is the Dyson swarm theory. If this theory holds even a grain of truth, then the 60 galaxies we see inside the void aren't the only galaxies there. They are just the survivors. They're the ones that haven't been harvested yet, or perhaps they are being used as farms, kept alive for some purpose we cannot comprehend. This theory also solves the Fermi paradox, the question of where is everybody? Maybe the answer is they are over there in Boötes, and they are busy. If an empire spans 330 million light years, their demand for energy would be infinite. They wouldn't care about communicating with us. We are ants to them. You don't talk to the ants when you are paving a highway. You just pave over them. But there is a flaw in this theory, a flaw that makes it even scarier. If the Boötes Void is an expanding empire, why haven't we seen it move? We have been watching it for 40 years, and it hasn't grown. Well, remember the scale, 330 million light years. Light takes 330 million years to cross it. The image we see of the Boötes Void is ancient. We are seeing a snapshot of what that region looked like hundreds of millions of years ago. For all we know, that sphere of darkness has already expanded. For all we know, the edge of that empire is much closer than we think. We are looking at a ghost of the past. There is one final piece of the puzzle, a piece of data that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's called the dark flow. Astronomers have noticed that galaxy clusters in our universe are drifting. They're moving in a specific direction at incredible speeds, millions of miles per hour. This movement cannot be explained by the gravity of the known universe. Something is pulling them. And while the direction of the dark flow isn't pointing directly at the Boötes Void, it suggests that there are massive structures in the universe, structures of gravity and mass that we cannot see. The Boötes Void exerts a repulsive force. Because it is so empty, it has no gravity. The dense walls of galaxies around it pull everything away, making the void expand, stretching it out like a tearing fabric. If the void is natural, it will continue to grow slowly, pushing the universe apart. But if it is artificial, if it is the footprint of a Type 3 civilization, then we have to ask, What happens when they run out of stars in Boötes? They will look for more. They will look for the nearest bright, energy-rich cluster of galaxies. And the Milky Way is bright. It is rich, and it is right there on the horizon. Of course, the most likely scientific explanation for the Boötes Void is gravity, time, and random chance. It is likely just a cold, empty patch of vacuum, a boring statistical anomaly. But as human beings, we fear the dark for a reason. When our ancestors sat around campfires in caves, they feared the darkness beyond the firelight, because that is where the predators were hiding. We learned that silence isn't peaceful. Silence is dangerous. When we look at the Boötes Void, we are looking at the ultimate darkness, the ultimate silence. It is a reminder of how little we actually know. We act like we understand the universe. We have our equations, our telescopes, our models, but then the universe throws a 330 million light-year curveball at us. It reminds us that we are small, we are fragile, and we are very, very exposed. Whether the Boötes Void is a natural desert or an alien fortress, the result is the same. It is a place where life, as we know it, cannot exist. It is a place where the lights have gone out. So, tonight, when you go outside, look up at the stars. Appreciate them. Appreciate the fact that you can see them. Appreciate the clutter, the noise, and the light of the Milky Way. Because somewhere out there, in the direction of the Herdsman constellation, there is a place where the night never ends. A place where the sky is empty. And we can only hope that the emptiness stays there. What do you think? Is the Boötes Void just a random hole in the Swiss cheese of the cosmos? Or is it evidence of something else? Something that is slowly deleting the universe, star by star? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring the terrifying side of space with me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. The universe is a scary place, and it's better not to go alone. Thanks for watching, and stay safe in the light.